Hey there, I'm Dr. Olivia, the social media PhD. No, this isn't just a title that I gave myself. I actually have a PhD in mass communications from Penn State, where I study social media influencers, and our psychological connections with them. And my oh my, do I have some thoughts on this recent Vanillamace and QTCinderella live stream. Today, I'm going to be talking about the psychology behind why Vanillamace, in my opinion, seems to be getting more backlash than QTCinderella, who was the one going on this rant and driving the conversation. I'm not going to do a recap of the situation or show any videos. I'm going to assume you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you're not sure what I'm going to talk about, Adam McIntyre has done some coverage of this. Do We Know Them has also done coverage of this. There's been quite a bit of commentary. So let's jump right in. Today we're going to be talking about Expectancy Violations Theory. This says that we have expectations for those we are in relationships with. And this can be interpersonal relationships, but it can also be parasocial relationships. We have certain expectations for who someone is as a person, but also how they treat us within a relationship. When someone does a behavior that's outside the norm of what you were expecting, that is called a violation. Now, this violation can be positive or it can be negative and it can harm that relationship. So in the example of an influencer, let's say there's an influencer that you follow and you know that they tend to read the comments but not really respond. So if you leave a comment and they heart it and they respond to you, that is a violation of that expectation that you hold for them, but this is in a positive direction and you're probably gonna like them more. On the other hand, if there is an influencer who you expect to always respond, heart, etc., and then they don't, well, they violated your expectation in a negative way, and you might feel more distanced or not like that. Now, these violations can also occur outside of like your given relationship. So if you're out with a friend and they treat a waiter really poorly, that violates your expectation that you have from them just from like a friend and like moral code standpoint. Additionally, if someone has a moral violation, whatever that might mean, this theory predicts again that that violates your expectation in a negative way. Okay, so how does this apply to the QTCinderella Vanillamace live stream? I know Katie was on it too, but she kept silent during it. The reason I think QTCinderella is not getting as much backlash as Vanillamace is because QTCinderella was not violating anyone's expectations in what she was saying. And here's what I mean. Apparently, allegedly, she has received backlash before for who she collaborates with and their homophobic comments, who she follows and their transphobic comments. So her kind of going on this rant about how she still has interpersonal relationships with people who make these kind of comments, honestly, what else would I expect? On the other hand, by Vanillamace engaging in this conversation, and I don't think she did anything wrong by asking for clarification. I think when you're shocked by something someone says, you're like, surely I'm either misheard or a misunderstanding, can you clarify? But then the conversation did continue. I think that violated Vanillamace's audience's expectations of what they have of her. I'm assuming they expected her to either not engage, to shut the conversation down. QTCinderella was having like 4 different conversations at the same time, because talking about having a relationship with friends who make these comments versus family, that's already 2 different conversations. And then her rant about how her stepbrother doesn't talk to her dad, that's a completely separate conversation. But I think with Vanillamace just connecting to the conversation of, yeah, you can't choose your family, I think people saw that as maybe she was affirming what QTCinderella was saying, or she was actively participating in this, and that violated what they expected from her. If we think about other influencers, off the top of my head, I think about Michaela Noguera. She's constantly getting in crises. She half the time does not disclose ads and sponsorships, yet her audience is like, yeah, well, that's what she does. Whereas another influencer could do the same thing and be held to a completely different standard. Do I think that's right? No, but I'm just explaining the psychology behind it, right? We have expectations for certain people, and when they violate those expectations, we're gonna be upset. But if someone is in line with like, yeah, that's who they are, we're not gonna be upset. I was reading about this theory today for a project, and another thing that came up was the idea of uncertainty. So is this violation making you more certain about that person and your relationship, or is it increasing uncertainty? With Vanillamace, her engaging in this conversation was a negative violation, right? People did not like it, and then it made them uncertain because they're like, wait, I didn't expect this from you in a way that like your previous behavior has not indicated that this would happen. So now I'm actually uncertain about you and what I think about you and what your morals might be. Whereas for QTCinderella, it made us more certain about who she is, right? She has a history of these kinds of behaviors and these conversations, and once again, she was doing another thing that made us more certain about her. And so with Vanillamace, the negative and uncertain aspect, I think, is what is making people just really attack her. I'm gonna leave it there, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thinking about this from an expectancy violations theory, does that make sense to you? Why people are more upset at Vanillamace than they are at QTCinderella? Do you have any other examples of influencers who you felt received way more backlash than someone else who does it all the time, like a Michaela Nogueira kind of a situation? Let me know down in the comments below too. If you want to see more about my take on influencer crises and the psychology behind it and audience responses, please subscribe down below. Give this video a thumbs up while you're at it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!